Zhejiang Province, a young woman was found deceased on a remote hillside, and her body showed signs of deterioration due to the elements. Authorities initially struggled to identify her, but a critical clue near the scene helped advance the investigation. It was later discovered that someone close to her was involved in this tragedy.
If you want ordinary, look elsewhere. Welcome to TC Channel, where other channels fall short, unique mysteries solved step by step.
On November 25th, 2011, near Zongtang Reservoir in Yiwu, a local resident, Mr. Li, went to the nearby hills searching for food. This area, covered by dense trees, is known for its wildlife. During his search, he noticed an unusual mound of dirt covered with branches. The placement of the branches seemed intentional, not something that occurred naturally. Curious, Mr. Li gently cleared the area, but he was immediately struck by a strong, unpleasant odor. What he uncovered shocked him. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, he quickly reported it to the local authorities. Police arrived promptly at the site and carefully examined the scene. They discovered a body that had been partially covered. Due to exposure and natural conditions, some parts of the body had deteriorated more than others. This raised questions for the investigators, but it also provided clues that would help with the case. Through further investigation, the police pieced together key evidence, leading them to uncover the tragic circumstances surrounding this incident. What made the case even more unsettling was the connection between the victim and the person responsible, which shocked the local community. The forensic team quickly examined the woman's skull, which helped clarify many of the questions in the case. They found that her skull had a large fracture, but there were no clear signs of injury on the rest of her body. The area around the skull attracted insects, which caused the decomposition to speed up. Soon after, police found 2 stones near her skull. The smaller stone had traces of blood on it, which suggested it was involved in the incident. The larger stone seemed to have been placed on the body, likely to cover it up. The large stone weighed over 100 pounds, which indicated that the person responsible might have been very strong, or that more than one person was involved. How did a young woman who should have been safe end up in the remote mountains? It seemed she may have been lured there by someone she knew. The location the perpetrator chose, near a rabbit burrow with many dirt mounds, showed they were familiar with the area. In this isolated spot with no surveillance, the condition of the body and the victim's identity left the police uncertain about where to begin the investigation. Not long after, the police spotted something odd. The victim's fingernails were missing. Given how much the rest of her body had decomposed, it seemed unlikely that the nails would have just disappeared. This led them to believe that someone must have removed them. The police started searching around the body for more clues. Sure enough, they found a few nails nearby, all painted with pink nail polish. This suggested she probably didn't do hard labor. The police then checked her clothes, noticing they were all red, with red strings tied around her wrists and ankles. From this, they speculated she might have just turned 24, as it could be her zodiac year. But forensic expert Lin Wenlu quickly disputed this theory. Lin, the chief forensic expert at the Zhejiang Provincial Public Security Department, has years of experience in estimating age from bones. When the case came up, he rushed to the scene to help. With his expertise, they made significant progress in solving the case. Surprisingly, the key clue came from something unexpected: the small insects around the body. Traditionally, age can be estimated from the wear on a victim's teeth. Based on that, the victim's age appeared to be between 18 and 25, but this range was too broad, making it hard to narrow down. With Lin's help, they managed to narrow it down to 18 to 19 years by analyzing the healing of her collarbone. Then, Lin figured that since the victim had been dead for a while, it would be hard to find the perpetrator's bodily fluids. However, based on his experience, victims in such cases often show signs of struggle, which means there was a good chance the perpetrator's DNA would be under her nails. And sure enough, they found another person's DNA under her nails. The investigation was moving forward without any issues. The police started by checking out local malls, looking for stores that carried clothes like the ones the victim wore. After some comparisons, they realized the victim's clothes were fairly cheap, around $15 or less. Because of this, the police believed the victim likely lived a simple life, maybe just an average person working a regular job. They then expanded their search to look for missing women between the ages of 18 and 19, especially those who worked. 5 days later, things started to progress. A landlord reported that his 19-year-old tenant had been missing for over a month and a half. This tenant had also disappeared with a male roommate. The missing woman, Zhang Li, was 19 years old. The landlord said that Zhang Li's height, age, build, and even the clothes she wore when she vanished were very similar to the victim's. What raised more concern was the fact that Zhang Li's male roommate had also gone missing. The police then started tracking Zhang Li's movements, using technology to help. They discovered that about a month and a half earlier, Zhang Li's social media had been accessed from Yongkang, over 100 kilometers away from Yiwu, and after that, there were no more signs of her. The police quickly traveled to Yongkang to investigate and eventually found the missing man at a local public spot. Sitting next to him was Zhang Li. After some questioning, the two explained they had staged their disappearance because they couldn't pay their rent. The case ended up going back to square one, leaving everyone feeling pretty discouraged. Meanwhile, expert Lin was still carefully examining the maggots. He believed these maggots could hold crucial clues. Usually in spring and summer, it takes about 2 weeks for maggots to transform. But in fall and winter, it takes about a month. When the victim's body was found on November 27th, most of the maggots had already turned into flies and flown away. After a close inspection, Lin noticed the maggot shells were smooth and clear, which meant they had just recently shed. Taking the local climate in Yiwu into account, Lin determined the victim likely passed away 28 to 30 days ago. Based on the information they had, the police were able to confirm a few details about the victim. She was around 18 to 19 years old. She had died about 28 to 30 days ago. She was last seen wearing red clothing and blue denim shorts with red cords on her wrists and ankles, and her nails painted pink. The Yiwu police then put together a missing person report with all this info, printing 50,000 copies, which they distributed through the internet, TV, radio, and other platforms. On the 8th day after the incident, the police finally received some leads. A man showed up at the station, saying the girl in the police notice looked a lot like a girl who'd been renting with his wife. He told them her name was Zhang Juan. She was 18 years old, about 5 feet 5 inches tall. A month ago, Zhang Juan had suddenly gone missing. Her family assumed she had returned to her hometown, so they didn't think much of it. When she disappeared, she was wearing a red top and blue jeans. The details the man mentioned lined up with the victim's description, but they could have been coincidences, so the police couldn't be sure it was her. But then, the man mentioned something that made the police pretty certain. He said that when Zhang Guan disappeared, the denim shorts she was wearing had been sewn at the crotch, and his wife had done the sewing. This private detail hadn't been made public, but it matched the victim's shorts exactly. To confirm if the victim was Zhang Juan, the police went to her family and took DNA samples from her parents for comparison. Once the results came in, it was confirmed that the victim was indeed 18-year-old Zhang Juan. Her family told the police that Zhang Juan had never been interested in school, and when she didn't make it into high school at 18-15, she moved to Yiwu to work. At first, she worked at a factory, but soon realized the job was too exhausting and didn't pay enough. So she left. Before the incident, Zhang Quan worked as a waitress at a nightclub. Because of her job, her social circle was quite complex, and she had many male friends. Unofficial reports say she had lived with more than 10 men, been in relationships with over 50, and had more than 1,000 male contacts on her phone. After searching for a long time, the police finally found a man named Liu Kang. He was the ex-boyfriend of the victim, Zhang Huan. When the police brought him in, he seemed confused, like he had no idea what had happened to Zhang Huan. Liu Kang told the police that he had dated Zhang Huan and that they had lived together for a while. But things got difficult when he realized Zhang Huan wasn't being faithful. Even while they were living together, she kept seeing other men. Liu Kang kept telling her to be more careful, but she didn't listen. Eventually, he decided to break up with her, but Zhang Huan didn't want to let him go, and she kept trying to get him back. She wouldn't leave him alone. Liu Kang got frustrated, so he asked two of his friends for help, hoping they could get her to stay away from him. But sadly, that didn't go as planned. Zhang Huan never saw Liu Kang again. The police found out that his two friends, 20-year-old Wang Guanyun and 21-year-old Pei Jiankang, had grown up together in Yongcheng, Henan. These three didn't have steady jobs, and they were known for getting involved in less than legal activities. The police quickly arrested Wang and Pei. When questioned, they didn't hide anything. They admitted that Jiang Zhuan's death was just a tragic accident. They didn't seem worried about facing any consequences. And that night, they were still planning other illegal activities. Their careless attitude really angered the police, but since they couldn't break the law themselves, they kept pressing for more information. The police learned that on October 27, 2011, Liu Kang, along with Wang Guanyun and Pei Jiankang, were planning a robbery for later that evening. While waiting for the right time, the three stayed at Liu Kang's home, playing video games. Unexpectedly, Zhang Huan showed up at Liu Kang's house uninvited. Frustrated, Liu Kang pulled his two friends aside and complained about Zhang's behavior. He told them they could handle her however they wanted, as long as she wouldn't bother him again. After saying this, Liu Kang left the house, leaving Zhang with Wang and Pei. Wang then approached Zhang and made inappropriate comments, comparing her to his girlfriend. He tried to hug her, but Zhang resisted strongly. Pei, who was focused on their robbery plan, intervened and told Wang to stop. He said that Zhang's resistance might draw attention and ruin their plan for the night. Pei suggested taking Zhang to a remote area, promising Wang he could do what he wanted there. The two exchanged a look, silently agreeing on a plan. At that moment, Zhang, unaware of their intentions, mentioned she wanted to eat grapefruits. Pei seized the opportunity and told Zhang there were plenty of sweet, large grapefruits in the mountains near Zhejiang Reservoir. Excited, Zhang asked them to take her there. The three of them headed to the remote area together. As night fell, Pei stepped aside, giving Wang the space to act. Wang then restrained Zhang and acted on his intentions, despite her efforts to resist. Afterward, Wang struck Zhang's head with a stone, leaving her unconscious. To avoid leaving evidence, Wang and Pei wiped any potential traces and removed Zhang's fingernails. They then placed a large stone over her body and covered it with branches to hide it. Concerned about carrying the fingernails with them, they dug a small pit nearby and buried them. After reviewing the case, the police quickly collected DNA samples from the suspects. The results confirmed that the DNA under the victim's nails matched Wang Guanyun. The law was clear in this case. Pei Jiankang and Wang Guanyun had tricked the victim into the mountains with the promise of grapefruit. Even though she refused, Wang Guanyun ignored her and continued, which met the criteria for assault. Later, Wang Guanyun and Pei Jiankang caused the victim's death, showing clear intent to harm. This resulted in murder charges. Both were a serious threat to the community, so they deserve a harsh punishment. Liu Kang didn't directly participate in the assault, but he encouraged his friends to carry it out, so he was also charged as an instigator. Though Liu Kang wasn't there when the crime happened and didn't assist in the act, Pei Jiankang and Wang Guanyun were clearly the main perpetrators, and Liu Kang was considered an accomplice. This fact will be taken into account during the trial. However, since the case verdict hasn't been made public, we don't know the final outcome for the three men. The victim, Zhang had several opportunities to get away from danger, but she made poor choices and paid a terrible price. As a young woman living alone, she needed to prioritize her safety more, since complicated relationships can lead to dangerous situations. This 18-year-old's tragic end is a reminder for all of us. We must always stay alert, because you never really know who you're dealing with, no matter how charming they appear. What do you think of this case? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next dark secret.